Sir Marcus stood perfectly still at the tall iron gates of the royal palace. His uniform was clean and neat. His shoes shined like mirrors. His back was completely straight. He had been standing in this exact spot since sunrise, and the sun was now moving down the sky. This was his job. This was what he did every single day. For 23 years, Marcus had worked as a royal guard. 23 years of standing at these gates. 23 years of watching people come and go. 23 years of never complaining, never sitting down, never letting anyone break the rules. He was a man of honor. He was a man of duty. Marcus was not a young man anymore. He was 52 years old. His dark hair had turned gray on the sides. His strong face had lines around his eyes from all the years of sun and wind. But his body was still strong. His mind was still sharp. He would not retire. He would not leave his post. This palace was his life. This duty was everything to him. Every morning, Marcus woke at 5 o'clock. He polished his uniform until it shined perfectly. He checked the spear again and again. The spear was not just a weapon to him. It was more than that. It was a symbol. It showed everyone that he was important. It showed that he was protecting something valuable. The spear was heavy, made of strong metal and dark wood. When Marcus held it, he felt powerful. He felt like he was protecting the king and the royal family. The palace was like a small city. It was enormous. There were hundreds of rooms, beautiful gardens, and long hallways. Hundreds of people worked there. Cooks prepared food in the kitchen. Cleaners made everything shine. Workers fixed things that broke. Gardeners took care of the flowers and trees. But Marcus was different from all of them. Marcus was a guard. He protected everyone. Today was different. Marcus could feel it. Something was wrong in the palace. The air felt heavy and sad. The birds were not singing. The usual sounds of the palace were quiet. Workers were not laughing or talking like they usually did. Instead, everyone was moving quickly and quietly. Their faces looked worried. Early in the morning, Marcus had heard the news. The king was very sick. Very, very sick. A messenger had come to palace gates and whispered something to the other guards. Then, like water moving, the information spread to the palace. Everyone knew. Everyone was afraid. The king was not just any person. The king was the most important person in the entire country. He was strong and fair. He loved his people. People respected him. He had ruled for 30 years. But now, the king was lying in his bed, and doctors did not know if he would get better. Marcus had seen many things in his 23 years at the palace gates. He had seen happy celebrations when the king won battles. He had seen festivals when the princess was born. He had seen beautiful ceremonies and parades. But he had never seen the palace feel like this. He had never felt so much fear and sadness. Throughout the day, more and more people came to the palace. Doctors arrived in carriages. They were wearing long dark clothes and carrying bags with medicine. Their faces were serious. They did not smile. They walked quickly into the palace and disappeared. After them came important advisors and leaders from the government. They looked worried and confused. They talked to each other in low voices. Marcus watched all of this happen. He saw everything, but he did not show his feelings. His face was calm. His body was still and straight. But inside, his heart was beating fast. Inside, he was worried too. The afternoon came slowly. The sun moved across the sky. The shadows of the palace walls grew longer and longer. Workers rushed back and forth. Some people cried quietly. Others looked angry or confused. The whole palace felt sick, just like the king. Marcus knew the rules. He knew them all by heart. He had learned them when he first became a guard. He had practiced them every single day for 23 years. The rules were not suggestions or ideas. The rules were laws. The rules were written down in a big book. Marcus had read that book so many times that he could say most of the rules from memory. Rule number 1 was about the palace gates. No one enters or leaves the palace without permission. Rule number 2 was about the restricted areas. Certain parts of the palace can only be visited by permission of the king. And there were many, many more rules. Rules about the western path. Rules about the private gardens. Rules about the chapel in the forest. Marcus took these rules very seriously. He believed in them. The rules kept the royal family safe. The rules protected the palace. The rules made sure that everything worked correctly. Without rules, everything would be chaos. Without someone like Marcus standing at the gates, people would break things. People would steal things. People would hurt the royal family. This was Marcus's purpose. This was why he existed. He was a guardian. He was a protector. His body was strong, so he could defend the palace. His mind was sharp, so he could remember the rules. His heart was loyal, so he would never betray his duty. But today, as the afternoon turned to evening, Marcus felt something new inside his chest. It was not doubt. It was not fear. It was something harder to explain. It was a strange feeling, like two parts of him were pulling in different directions. One part of Marcus was the guard. That part believed in the rules completely. That part said, the rules must be followed. Always. No matter what. That is your duty. But another part of Marcus was a human being. That part had a heart that could feel sadness. That part could see suffering. That part could understand when someone was in pain. Marcus did not understand this feeling. In 23 years, these two parts of himself had never fought against each other. They had always worked together. But today, they seemed different. Today, they seemed like enemies. Marcus gripped his spear tighter. He looked at the palace gates. He looked at the darkening sky. He wondered what was going to happen. He wondered what this day would bring. And deep in his heart, he had a strange feeling. A feeling that something important was about to change. Something that would test his duty. Something that would change him forever. The clock in the palace tower struck 4 times. The sound echoed across the gardens and the walls. Marcus counted each bell ring in his head. 4 o'clock. The afternoon was dying. Soon it would be evening and the sky would turn dark. Marcus had been standing at the gates for almost 12 hours now. His legs were tired. His feet hurt inside his heavy boots. But he did not move. He did not sit down. He did not complain. This was his duty, and duty did not allow for comfort. The palace had become even quieter as the day went on. The workers who had been rushing around were now gone. The advisors had disappeared into the building. Even the birds seemed to have stopped singing. It was like the entire world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Marcus heard footsteps coming from inside the palace. The sound was getting closer and closer. He straightened his uniform. He held his spear firmly in both hands. This was what he did when important people were about to appear. He prepared himself. He showed respect through his posture and his attention. The palace doors opened slowly. A tall figure stepped out into the fading afternoon light. It was a woman. She was wearing a long purple dress that was very beautiful. Her dark hair was carefully arranged on top of her head. But something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. This was Queen Camilla. Marcus recognized her immediately. He had seen the queen many times over the years. He knew her face. He knew the way she walked with grace and power. But today, she looked different. Today, she looked broken. The queen's face was very pale, almost white like snow. Her eyes were red and wet with tears. Her beautiful face was twisted with sadness and pain. She was holding something in her hands, a white envelope. Her hands were shaking. She was trembling like a leaf in the wind. Queen Camilla walked down the palace steps slowly. She was not walking like a queen today. She was not walking with pride and confidence. She was walking like a person who was carrying something very heavy, like a person who was very, very sad. Marcus watched her. He did not move. He did not speak. He simply observed. This was part of his training. A good guard notices everything. The queen did not look at Marcus. She did not look at anything around her. She seemed to be looking at something far, far away, something that only she could see. She walked past the front gardens. She walked past the fountain where water normally splashed and danced, but today was still and quiet. Then she turned. She turned toward the western path. Marcus felt his entire body become tight and hard. The western path. His mind immediately said, "No, stop her." The western path was forbidden. Everyone knew this. Even the children who worked in the palace kitchens knew this. The western path was a small road that led through thick trees and forests. At the end of the path, far away in the trees, was the old chapel. The chapel was beautiful and very old, built hundreds of years ago by the king's ancestors. But no one used the western path anymore. It was forbidden. There was a rule, a very old rule. This rule said that no one could use the western path without special permission from the king himself. No one, not the servants, not the advisors, not even the queen. The rule existed because the path was not safe. Beyond the palace gates, there were dangers. There were dark forests. There were wild animals sometimes. There were bandits and thieves who lived in the mountains. The path was not protected. There were no guards on the western path. That is why it was forbidden. Marcus knew this rule perfectly. He had studied it many times. He had memorized it. He knew it was important. But now, as he watched the queen walking toward the western path, something inside his chest felt strange. The queen reached the small gate that guarded the western path. This gate was smaller than the main gates where Marcus stood. It was made of wood and metal. It was not very strong, but it was symbolic. It said, "Do not go this way." Camilla put her hand on the gate. She was about to push it open. Marcus took a deep breath. He made a decision. A guard does not remain silent when rules are being broken. A guard must act. A guard must protect the rules, even when it is difficult, even when the person breaking the rule is the queen herself. "Your Majesty," Marcus called out. His voice was strong and clear, but also respectful and gentle. The queen stopped. She did not turn around. Her hand stayed on the gate. Her body became very still. "The western path is restricted," Marcus said. He was walking toward her now, his spear held firmly in his hands. "Your Majesty, I cannot permit passage without proper authorization from the king himself. This is a rule. This is a law." For a long moment, nothing happened. The queen did not move. Marcus did not move. It was like time had stopped. Then, slowly, the queen turned around. She looked directly at Marcus for the first time, and in that moment, Marcus saw the deepest pain and sadness he had ever seen in anyone's eyes. "Do you know who I am?" Queen Camilla asked. Her voice was very quiet, like a whisper, but was also filled with emotion, sadness, anger, desperation, and something else. Something that broke Marcus's heart. "Yes, Your Majesty," Marcus replied. He felt tears trying to come to his own eyes, but he fought them back. "Yes, I know exactly who you are. That is why this is so difficult for me." The queen stared at him, her mouth open like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. Her eyes filled with more tears. One tear ran down her pale cheek. Behind her, the sun was setting. The sky was turning orange and pink and purple. The world was becoming dark. And in that darkness, the queen stood before a guard who would not move, who would not break his duty, who would not let her pass. Even though she was the most powerful woman in the entire kingdom, what would happen next? Neither of them knew. The queen and the guard stood facing each other. The sun was disappearing behind the mountains. Long shadows stretched across the palace grounds like dark fingers. The wind was becoming cold. It whispered to the trees and made the queen's beautiful purple dress move gently. Marcus felt his heart beating very fast. He had never been in this position before. In 23 years, no one had ever challenged his duty. No one had ever forced him to choose between the rules and his heart. But now, standing before the queen of the entire kingdom, he felt that choice crushing down on him like a heavy stone. The queen's eyes were filled with pain so deep that it seemed endless. Marcus could see her suffering. He could see that she was not trying to break the rules out of pride or anger. She was breaking the rules because her heart was breaking. She was breaking the rules because she was desperate. She was breaking the rules because the man she loved was dying. But the rules were the rules. "Your Majesty," Marcus said quietly, "the western path is dangerous. No one is allowed to use it without permission from the king. These are the laws that protect you. These are the laws that keep you safe." The queen's face suddenly changed. Her sadness mixed with anger. She straightened her back. She lifted her chin. She looked like a queen again. "I am the queen," she said, her voice becoming stronger and louder. "I do not need permission. I do not need your permission. I do not need anyone's permission. Stand aside, guard. Stand aside now." She turned around again. She reached for the gate. Her hand pushed against the wooden door. This was the moment. This was the moment that would change everything. Marcus made a decision. It came from deep inside him, from a place he did not know existed. It came from his loyalty to duty, but also from something else, from his love for the palace, from his respect for the queen, from his understanding that sometimes protecting someone means saying no to them, even when it hurts. Marcus lifted his spear high above his head. His arms were strong. His body moved with the power of 23 years of training and discipline. He looked directly at the gate, the forbidden western path, and with all his strength, he brought the spear down. The metal tip of the spear struck the ground with a sound that echoed across the entire palace. It was a loud sound. It was a sharp sound. It was a sound like thunder. The metal sang and vibrated. Pieces of dirt flew up into the air. Marcus had planted a spear directly in front of the gate. The shaft of the spear was now between the queen and the path. It was blocking her way. It was a physical barrier made of metal and wood and will. The queen froze. She did not move. She did not breathe. Her hand was still reaching toward the gate, but now it stopped in the air. Her eyes became very wide. Her mouth opened in shock. "Not even the queen can cross this line," Marcus said. His voice was quiet, but it was firm and strong. It was the voice of a man who was certain of his purpose. It was the voice of a man who had just made a choice that would stay with him forever. Queen Camilla stared at him. For a long, long moment, she simply stared. Her face showed shock. Her face showed anger. Her face showed sadness. Her face showed confusion. All of these emotions moved across her beautiful features, like clouds moving across the sky. No one had ever spoken to her this way. No one had ever stopped her. No one had ever put a spear in front of her and told her she could not go somewhere. The queen was the most powerful woman in the kingdom. Everyone obeyed her. Everyone bowed to her. Everyone did what she wanted. But not Marcus. Not today. The queen's eyes filled with tears again. Her anger seemed to drain away like water from a broken cup. Her strong posture began to break. Her shoulders started to shake. "My husband is dying," she whispered. Her voice was so quiet that Marcus could barely hear her. "Do you understand? Do you understand what is happening to me right now? The king, my husband, he is lying in his bed upstairs. The doctors are with him, and I do not know if he will live or if he will die." She fell to her knees on the palace steps. The white envelope in her hands dropped to the ground. "I need to reach the chapel," she continued, her voice breaking into sobs. "I need to pray. I need to ask God to save him. I need to do something. I cannot just stand here and wait. I cannot just wait and wonder if my husband will ever wake up again." Marcus felt tears come into his own eyes now. He did not fight them. He let them come. He was a guard, but he was also a human being. He was a man who understood sadness and fear and love and loss. He lowered his spear slowly. He did not take it away from the gate, but he lowered it. He looked at the queen, and his face was filled with compassion. "Your Majesty," Marcus said gently, I understand your heart. I understand your pain. But the rule exists for your protection. The western path is dangerous. There are no guards on that path. There are wild animals sometimes. There are places that are not safe for you." He paused. He looked at the queen kneeling on the steps. He looked at her pain. He made another decision. "But," Marcus continued, "I will help you reach the chapel. I will help you pray for the king. I will do this the right way. I will obtain permission. I will arrange guards. I will make sure you are safe. Because protecting you means more than just following rules. It means understanding why the rules exist." He reached down and picked up the white envelope that had fallen from the queen's hands. He helped her stand up gently. "Come with me, Your Majesty," Marcus said. "Let me help you reach the chapel. Let me help you pray for your husband. Let me help you the way a true protector should." For the first time since she had come down the steps, the queen looked at Marcus with something different in her eyes. She looked at him with gratitude. She looked at him with recognition. She looked at him like he was not just a guard anymore. He was someone who understood her, someone who had said no to her, but had done it with love. The queen looked at Marcus with fresh tears running down her face. She reached out her hand, and Marcus gently helped her to stand. Her legs were shaking. Her body was weak from sadness and fear. But she stood, and she looked at this guard who had stopped her, yet also saved her. "Come with me, your majesty," Marcus said softly. "We will do this correctly. We will do this safely. But first, we must get proper authorization from the senior physicians. Then we will arrange guards. Then we will make the journey to the chapel." The queen nodded slowly. She could not speak. Her throat was full of emotion, but she understood, and somehow she trusted this man who had blocked her path with his spear. Marcus walked with the queen back into the palace. The corridors were long and beautiful, with tall ceilings and paintings of past kings and queens on the walls. Their footsteps echoed on the stone floor. Workers looked up as they passed, their eyes showing surprise. No one had ever seen a queen walk with a guard like this before, but no one questioned it. Everyone could see that something important was happening. They reached the medical room. This was where the senior physician was staying. His name was Dr. Hassan. He was an old man with white hair and a kind face. He had been treating the king all day and all night. He looked very tired and very worried. Marcus knocked on the door gently. "Dr. Hassan," he called, "the queen wishes to speak with you." Dr. Hassan came to the door immediately. When he saw the queen, he bowed deeply. "Your Majesty," he said, "how can I serve you?" The queen's voice was very quiet when she spoke. "I need to go to the chapel to pray for my husband. I need permission to use the western path. Can you help me?" Dr. Hassan understood immediately. He had seen many families face death and suffering. He knew that sometimes prayer was the only medicine that could heal a broken heart. "Of course, Your Majesty," he said. "I will write the authorization immediately. The king would want you to pray for him." Within minutes, Dr. Hassan had written on official palace paper. He had stamped it with a royal seal. He had given it to Marcus. Now the queen had permission. Now the western path was no longer forbidden to her. But Marcus was not finished. He was a protector, and he would protect the queen completely. "Your Majesty," Marcus said, "now we must arrange an escort of guards. The path is dangerous, and you cannot go alone. Also, we need to send someone ahead to prepare the chapel. It has not been used in many years. It might need cleaning and care before you arrive." The queen agreed. Marcus was taking charge now, and she was grateful. She did not have the strength to make these decisions. She was too broken, too tired, too full of fear. Marcus arranged everything quickly and efficiently. He was a guard, and guards knew how to organize things. He chose 2 other strong guards to walk with the queen. He sent a servant ahead to open the chapel and light the candles. He made sure the path was checked for any dangers. He prepared everything carefully. As the sun touched the mountains and the sky turned orange and red, Marcus led the queen toward the western path. Now there were guards everywhere. Now there was protection. Now the queen was safe, and she had permission to go. The queen held the white envelope that she had dropped earlier. Marcus did not know what was inside it, but he did not ask. Some things were private. Some things belonged only to the heart. They walked through the thick trees. The forest was dark and beautiful. Birds were singing their evening songs. The air smelled like earth and leaves and growing things. After a long walk, they finally reached the chapel. It was beautiful. It was small but perfect. It had a tall cross on top. Inside, candles were burning brightly. The servant had done good work. Everything was clean and ready. The queen walked into the chapel alone. Marcus and the other guards stayed outside. They formed a circle around the building, protecting her, watching for any danger. Inside the chapel, Queen Camilla fell to her knees before the altar. She opened the white envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter. It was written in the king's own handwriting. The letter said, "My dearest Camilla, if you are reading this, then I am very sick or dying. I want you to know that I love you more than anything in this world. I love you more than the kingdom. I love you more than power. I love you more than life itself. If I die, please know that my last thoughts will be of you. Please know that you made my life beautiful. Please promise me that you will continue to be strong. The kingdom needs you. Our children need you. But most of all, I need you to know that loving you is the greatest joy of my life. Forever yours, your king. The queen read these words again and again. She held the letter to her heart. She cried. Not tears of sadness only, but tears of love and memory and hope. She prayed. She prayed for her husband's life. She prayed for strength. She prayed for guidance. And outside the chapel, Marcus stood at his post. He stood guard. He protected the queen while she prayed. He protected her safety while she opened her heart to God. He did his duty as a guard, but he did it with love and compassion and understanding. Hours passed. The stars came out in the sky. The moon rose high above the trees. Finally, the queen emerged from the chapel. Her face was still sad, but something had changed. Her eyes looked more peaceful. Her body looked stronger. She walked to Marcus. She looked at him directly. "Thank you," she said simply. "You protected me tonight. You stopped me, but you also saved me. You showed me that duty and compassion can live together in the same heart." Marcus bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, protecting you means understanding your needs. The rules exist for your safety, but sometimes we must bend the rules to truly serve those we protect. Tonight, I learned that true duty is not about being rigid and hard. It is about being strong enough to care." The queen reached out and placed her hand on Marcus's shoulder. It was a gesture of gratitude and respect. It was a moment that both of them would remember for the rest of their lives. Together, the queen and her guards walked back through the forest toward the palace. The stars watched them go. The trees seemed to bow to them as they passed. And in the chapel behind them, candles continued to burn brightly, carrying prayers up to heaven for the king's recovery. 3 days had passed. 3 days of waiting. 3 days of hope and fear mixing together in the palace like colors in water. 3 days since the queen had gone to the chapel and prayed with all the strength of her heart. The palace had changed in these 3 days. The heavy sadness that had filled the halls was slowly becoming lighter, not because the danger had passed, but because people had hope again. They had seen the queen pray. They had seen her faith. And faith is something that spreads from heart to heart like light spreading through darkness. On the morning of the 4th day, something miraculous happened. The king opened his eyes. The doctors could not explain it. They had been certain that he would not survive the night. They had prepared for the worst. But the king's fever had broken. His breathing had become easier. His heart had become stronger. By sunrise, the king was asking for water. By noon, he was asking for food. By evening, he was sitting up in his bed. The news spread to the palace like wildfire. The king was alive. The king was recovering. The entire kingdom celebrated. People rang bells in the towns. They lit fires in the night. They sang songs of joy and gratitude. The queen's prayers had been answered, but the queen knew something that no one else knew. She knew that it was not just prayer that had saved the king. It was also Marcus. It was also the guard who had stopped her with his spear. It was also the man who had understood her pain and helped her find the strength to continue. 1 week later, the king had recovered enough to walk. His color had returned to his face. His strength was coming back. The doctors said he would be completely well in a few more weeks. The entire kingdom was celebrating with joy and happiness. Flowers were placed at every door. Music played in the streets. Children danced and laughed. And the king summoned Marcus to the throne room. Marcus did not know what to expect. He had followed the queen to the chapel. He had left his post at the gates. He had bent the rules. Perhaps the king was angry. Perhaps the king wanted to punish him. Marcus walked through the palace corridors with his head held high, but his heart was beating very fast. The throne room was enormous. It had high ceilings with paintings of battles and victories. The walls were made of stone and decorated with gold. At the far end of the room, sitting on a tall throne made of wood and gold, was the king. The king looked tired, but his eyes were bright and clear. He looked at Marcus with intelligence and understanding. He did not look angry. "Sir Marcus," the king said, his voice still a little weak, but growing stronger. Come closer. Marcus walked forward slowly. He bowed deeply before the king. His spear was held firmly in his hands. Your Majesty, Marcus said respectfully. The king stood up carefully from his throne. He was still weak, but he stood. He walked down the steps slowly and stopped directly in front of Marcus. My wife told me everything, the king said. She told me how you stopped her at the gates. She told me how you held firm to the rules. She told me how you then helped her reach the chapel safely. She told me that your duty was stronger than your weakness, and your compassion was greater than your fear. Marcus did not know what to say. He simply bowed again. When I was lying in my bed, sick and close to death, I heard my wife praying. The king continued. I could not see her face. I could not move, but I could hear her voice. And in her voice, I heard something I had never heard before. I heard a woman who was not just a queen, but a human being. I heard a woman who loved me so much that she would break every rule to pray for me. The king placed his hand on Marcus's shoulder. It was a gesture of great honor and respect. You gave her that strength, the king said. By saying no to her, you helped her say yes to prayer. By protecting the rules, you showed her that rules exist for reasons we sometimes do not understand. You did not just follow duty that day. You became what true duty really means. The entire throne room was silent. Every servant and official was listening. Therefore, the king announced, I am giving you a new position. You will no longer be just a guard at the gates. You will be the chief guard of the entire palace. You will train all the guards in the kingdom. You will teach them what you taught my wife. That duty must be combined with wisdom, and rules must be understood before they are followed. The king bowed slightly to Marcus. It was a bow of respect and gratitude. In that moment, everyone in the throne room understood something important. They understood that this guard had changed the king's life. This guard had saved the queen's sanity. This guard had protected not just rules, but the heart of the kingdom itself. Marcus knelt before the king. Your Majesty, I am honored. I will serve you and the kingdom with all my strength. 2 years later, the palace had changed, not in appearance, but in spirit. The guards who worked under Marcus's training were different from guards before them. They understood that being a guard meant more than just following orders. It meant understanding people. It meant seeing the heart behind the action. It meant knowing when to say yes and when to say no, and understanding why both were important. The rule about the Western path had been changed. It was no longer completely forbidden. Instead, it was now monitored by guards. People could use it with permission, and guards walked the path regularly to keep it safe. The chapel was no longer forgotten. People visited it to pray. It became a place of peace and healing. The king and queen had never been stronger in their love and commitment. They had nearly lost each other, and that experience had made their bond unbreakable. They ruled the kingdom with wisdom and compassion. They treated their people with kindness. They treated their guards with respect. And Sir Marcus? He stood taller than before, not because he was physically taller, but because he carried himself with the knowledge that he had done something important. He had learned that duty was not about being hard and cold. Duty was about being strong enough to care. Duty was about protecting people, not just rules. Duty was about understanding that the greatest protection comes from compassion. One evening, as the sun was setting over the palace gardens, the queen came to visit Marcus. She was walking alone, which meant she wanted to speak with him privately. Sir Marcus, she said, I wanted to thank you again. I have tried so many times to find the right words, but they never seem enough. You saved my husband's life by helping me pray. You saved my life by showing me that sometimes the strongest thing we can do is bend. Marcus bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, you taught me something too. You taught me that being broken is not weakness. You taught me that asking for help is strength. You taught me that true duty includes compassion. The queen smiled. It was a genuine smile, full of warmth and peace. As the queen walked away, Marcus looked at the palace gates where it stood for so many years. The gates were still there. The rules were still there. But everything was different now. Everything was better. Because sometimes the greatest change comes not from breaking rules, but from understanding why they exist and having the courage to do what is right, even when it is difficult. The end.